and the seam heads that bleed orange and black. This is Sports Phone KNBR. Sponsored by Industrial Metal Supply on the Sports Leader. Check the live stream on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
All right, the roller coaster ride continues, and not in a good way for the San Francisco Giants, as we welcome you into Sports Phone here on a Tuesday night. It's John Dickinson in for the next 90 minutes. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627 to join the conversation as the Giants lose to the Dodgers once again, the fifth time now in 5 games at Dodger Stadium this season. A couple of more games to go tomorrow night and on Thursday afternoon. And the Giants now have dropped 7 in a row down at Dodger Stadium. Third time in franchise history that the Giants have done that as they enter tonight. 7 in a row. First time in a long time. You got to go back, not in my lifetime. You got to go back to the 70s. When the Giants had lost 8 consecutive games to the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium. The last time they had lost 7, they also won 8, 79, and 80. So I guess they did sneak it in there in the 80 portion there of the deal. But, now 16 of the last 21 are in the loss column for the Giants at Dodger Stadium. 5-2 the final in this one. And look, we can get into some of the details about this one as Jordan Hicks really labored in this game, put the Giants behind 2-0, 2 out, nobody on, hit by pitch, a walk, and then a wild pitch. Sound familiar? A couple of free bases, and then a big 2-out hit for the Dodgers. Gavin Lux tried to turn the double into a triple, was thrown out. Going to third. The Giants did throw out some runners on the bases in this game tonight. One of the small positives, not named Tyler Fitzgerald for San Francisco in this game, but 2-0 at the end of the first inning, and just not enough base runners offensively for San Francisco in this game. It's been unable to hit with runners in scoring position. Tonight it was just a few opportunities, really, all the way up until the 9th inning when the Giants did get to Vesia a little bit, as Vesia was giving them some free passes. Tyler Fitzgerald, both runs driven in for the Giants in this one. He hit a home run for the 5th consecutive game, that coming with a quick answer in the top of the 2nd inning after the Giants fell behind 2-0. 5th straight game since the All-Star break for Tyler Fitzgerald to homer in, and the Giants are now 1-4 in those games. Womp womp. And they are now also a season low equaling 6 games under 500. So for all of the conversation about, again, are they in the race, buy or sell, seemingly a nightly occurrence, and I was on last night and we kind of went through, well, if they drop tonight's game, and they now have, they have, for all the talk about the potential to be better after the All-Star break and be a bit better version of what they've been to this point. Are they in the race? Are they not? Are they closer to the worst version of themselves this season or the best version of themselves this season? It is now a fact that the Giants are at their low point for the 2024 season. 6 games under. They were 19-25 on May 14th. They went 10-2 to get to 2 over on May 28th. Then they dipped below 500 June 1st and haven't been 500 at any point in June or July. 7-15 to fall to 6 under on June 23rd. That was after the weekend in St. Louis, which was after the game at Rickwood Field in Birmingham, Alabama. Then the 8-3. The yo-yo, the 8-3 there against the Cubs and the Dodgers and the Braves, and the first game against the Guardians, but they're 4-9 since, and you add it all up, and it's 12-12 in the last 24 games, and they are at their low point, 6 under 500 now at 48-54 with a week to go, less than a week, with the trade deadline a week from today, Tuesday, but in the afternoon, and 2 games still to come at Dodger Stadium. Robbie Ray's going to make his Giants debut tomorrow, and then Logan Webb will pitch for San Francisco on Thursday afternoon, and 4 games against the Rockies to follow there. But can you really even hold those games in your back pocket if you're the Giants at this point against the Rockies when you just come out of the gate and you drop 2 out of 3 against the Rockies at Coors Field? So tonight, if you want to vent, I would say buy or sell, but I think it's becoming clear the decision on that one for Farhan Zaidi, as difficult as it may be for him to swallow the fact that the team he put together has failed, if he chooses to go that route. But I think when you look at where San Francisco is in the standings, it's becoming just abundantly clear the direction by which they should need to proceed. 5 games out with the Mets winning tonight, with the Cardinals also getting a victory. They are 5 games out of the 3rd wild card, and there are still 5 games in between them and the Mets, who currently have the 3rd wild card. They're 52-48, so they're +4 to 500. The Cardinals are +5 now, so you're 5.5 back of the 2nd wild card. You're 5 back with all of those teams in between. Again, barring a 5 of 6 stretch over the next 6 games, of the 2 against the Dodgers and what's remaining against the Rockies, I think the decision has become pretty clear as to what the course of action is going to be for San Francisco. So a couple other thoughts just in general on this one. Bottom of the 4th is really when the Dodgers, as much as you hate to think a 4-1 deficit is insurmountable, but they go up 4-1 bottom of the 4th. Hicks was really all over the place in that inning, not throwing strikes. He had labored through the first 3, did have 7 strikeouts, but didn't look comfortable, looked out of gas, looked like he was fighting himself, fighting something, and he did rally to strike out Kike Hernandez for that 7th strikeout after the Biggio single, and then it was 1st and 3rd with 1 out. And Hicks was able to get Kike Hernandez, and it set up the 2-out, 2-on situation for Shohei Ohtani. And the Giants have been getting Shohei Ohtani out, but I thought it was curious. Melvin stuck with Hicks and, didn't go to a lefty, didn't, I think, even have a lefty ready, or if he did, the lefty was just starting to get going. It seemed like they were really bent on trying to allow Hicks a little bit of room to work through his troubles, although at one point Melvin went out there and it looked like there was a physical ailment or something that Hicks was trying to get through. Obviously, with his conversion from being a reliever to being a starter, you figured at some point he was probably going to run out of gas. It looked like he had reached that point going back to his last start on the 11th at Oracle Park against the Jays, got the extended break. And look, as you start to look at where the Giants' rotation is, they're probably going to need one more start from him. That's even with Hayden Birdsong going into the rotation again for the doubleheader on Saturday against the Rockies. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Giants do there. But he looks banged up and gassed and in need maybe of a break even lengthier than the 12-day break that he had between his last start and this one. And then Alex Cobb at some point is going to be joining the rotation. But when you look at the way the days map out, and I was doing that a little bit during the game, they might still need one more game from Hicks, or you could, I guess, go for a bullpen game before Cobb comes back potentially next week. And then it really is becoming clear that Hicks, once Cobb and Ray are both back, in addition to Hayden Birdsong, that at this point Jordan Hicks is probably the guy that needs to be the odd man out. And again, could a trade potentially alter the thinking there? It could, but I think Jordan Hicks, if he hasn't pitched for a final time in a little bit in the rotation, I think his spot will for sure be on the line if he gets a chance on Sunday afternoon in the 4-game series finale coming up against the Rockies. So not enough pitching, although Hicks battled, but the hitting has really told the tale for the Giants over the last 5 games since coming out of the break, but really the last 7 if you go back to the games the final two before the break against the Twins, hitting under 200, hitting 171 with runners in scoring position. They're not getting guys on base, just a 263 on base percentage. The OPS is right around 600, and they're not even scoring 2.5 runs a game on average. Just not enough hitting with runners in scoring position when they have gotten runners on base, and then not enough getting runners on base, which has been really a tale of both of those things that have ailed the Giants over the course of these last couple of nights. So 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. It is John Dickinson here with you on a Tuesday here on The Sports Leader. Let's get to the phones. We appreciate everybody who's watching on YouTube and Twitch tonight as well. Hello to you. And, of course, the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line is open at that same 808 KNBR number. Let's get to the phones. We got the great Jacob Violante in our San Francisco studios. Let's get Cal in Santa Cruz here to get it rolling on a Tuesday night here on The Sports Leader. Hey, Cal.
Hey there, how's it going? So I just wanted to say, as far as tonight goes, obviously a bummer to start off down 2-0 to a team that's just flat out better than us. But it also, just in a nutshell, this season doesn't help that the three big bats are having their worst seasons of their career. Soler, Chapman, Conforto, they're not doing anything good for us. And without them getting going, I just don't see this team being able to compete in a wild card race, let alone in the playoffs. So it's just a bummer. You get hyped up for the pitchers to get healthy and come back, but it just seems like even with that happening, now you just have a bunch of stale bats. And it just seems like now there's not much to be excited for, even as these pitchers are getting healthy and coming back. So it's really just a tough time to be a Giants fan, and I was hoping for the exact opposite as the All-Star break flipped, and I think we all were. But, yeah, just kind of stating the obvious that these guys who are supposed to be hitting the shit out of the ball just can't touch it, and it's pathetic.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Let's make sure we dump that, Jacob. I'm sure you got that. The folks on the YouTube stream are going to get a little bit of a show, Cal unfiltered. The guys are not hitting the blank out of the ball. But 808 KNBR to join the conversation. Look, I think most Giants fans, were optimistic coming out of the break. And I've had this conversation over the last couple of weeks. I've been a little bit more guarded in that optimism, not in planning for the pitchers coming back and Ray and Cobb and, hey, Snell actually finally looks like Snell took him till July to do it, but he does. But I was reluctant because I think if you've been watching this team on a night in, night out basis, they've really showed you all season long that in the moment where a couple of things start to click, a couple of other things don't click. And, I think the epitome of that just within the last couple of weeks was, hey, Blake Snell 2 weeks ago tonight had that first real good start against the Blue Jays, and the Giants find themselves, needing to win that game in walk-off fashion. But then they stack up Logan Webb the next day. They get the win. You're thinking, hey, this team's got an opportunity to chase that win with another one with Webb going, and Webb has his worst outing of the season against the Jays. And then Jordan Hicks comes out, gets the Giants down immediately in the afternoon game against the Jays, and all of a sudden it's a home series drop to a team of a similar record. And so Blake Snell was Blake Snell, but then Logan Webb wasn't Logan Webb. And so it just, when this team has had a few things start to roll, and it's been different phases. When the bats have come around, and it hasn't happened often, then the injuries to the starting staff have played a role in the fact that they had to use so many openers and bullpen games, and it taxed the pitching, and that hurt them, and the bullpen got overexposed, and they blew some leads, too. Duvall has had some mishaps in some games that, we can make the case that the Giants have had maybe more than their fair share of wild comebacks, especially for a team with the poor overall record that they have. But they've also given some games away. And the reality is, for this team to be the best version of themselves, they needed to win those games that they stole, going back to the Mets and going back to the Pirates series. But they also needed to not blow as many games as they had blown at different points along the way. And coming out of the break in Colorado was another one where Kyle Harrison shoves, and then it's Tyler Rogers who gives it up. So every time it looks like, and this is what mediocre teams do. This is what bad teams do. They get you thinking that one aspect of their game is going to start to roll, and then another aspect gets a little bit leaky. And so with Blake Snell pitching the way that he has, then now Jordan Hicks is completely on fumes and probably going to have to be taken out of the rotation. And Logan Webb, you're not winning Logan Webb starts either anymore if you're San Francisco. So, and the bats just have not been there, and that is, I think, top to bottom, Soler, Conforto, Chapman, Jung-Hoo Lee due to injury being unavailable, not his fault, obviously, but the signings that the Giants made have just not panned out, not nearly consistently enough, and you get Elliot Ramos to an all-star game, and you're thinking, hey, that could be somebody that's an add-on, but then, the other guys have really started to dip again. Soler starting to dip again. Chapman starting to dip again. Conforto dipping again here. And then, you look at a guy like Estrada who struggled. They haven't gotten what they had over the last few years. And really, now the bright spot's Tyler Fitzgerald. And you'd love to have had Tyler Fitzgerald be in the bright spot when you had a couple other guys getting on base and things of that nature. So it's to the tune of them completely wasting a pleasant surprise in Tyler Fitzgerald going deep in 5 straight games, and they're 1-4 in those games. So it just, when one thing starts to go well, a couple other things go in the other direction. 808 KNBR. Peter in San Jose is next here on the Sports Leader. Hey, Peter.
Hey, Diddy. I'm sorry to say I have so many friends that are big Warrior, big 49er fans, Bay Area fans, that they've kind of lost interest in the Giants since like 2016. And baseball's my number one. And I was telling them all that we're going to be good this year. We got Blake Snell, we've got Matt Chapman, we got Jorge Soler. And I'm sorry to say it, but this team blows. And we're just going to get casual fans because it's up and down. It's the players are to blame. Bob Melvin and the coaching staff are to blame, and Farhan's to blame. I like the moves Farhan did, but look at this rotation. We're getting Robbie Ray back tomorrow. He could pitch great. We're already 5 games out with like a gazillion teams going to the wild card. So what's the point? We finally have our rotation. We're 5 games out. Who could have predicted this? It was pretty obvious. You got 2 injured guys. We kept hearing Alex Cobb was going to be back in May. Oh, no, he had a setback. He's going to be back in June. Oh, no, he had a setback. So we were running the whole year with half a rotation again because we had Logan Webb, who I love Logan Webb, and I think he's solid no matter what. We had Logan Webb, who's not pitched that great lately, but he's still a stud. We had Jordan Hicks, who we knew was going to run out of energy, and look, he did. And we had a bunch of guys that were like, oh, he's going to come. And we knew Harrison was on an innings limit. And then just everybody in this lineup outside of Ramos and Fitzgerald and Wade. Wade missed a bunch of time, but everybody's gone way below there. They just have they absolutely have sucked. They've stunk it up for 15 games. It's just really, really hard to watch. Like Matt Chapman, I like his defense, but Jorge Soler has been horrible. And I don't know why he's still leading off. There's just so many things wrong with this team. And this bullpen's worn out once again, just like last year. I like Duvall. I think Duvall's fine. I think he hasn't had his best year, but I think he's going to be overall fine. We shouldn't trade him. But, yeah, just up and down this team is just – it's inconsistent, and we're going to have this rotation back, and it's not going to matter. We might go on a little fake winning streak for 4 or 5 games and then go back to being – and we're not mediocre. We're bad. This team sucks. It's really embarrassing. They spent $200 million just to suck again, to be worse than the Cardinals, worse than the Mets. I don't know how this is happening again. And
no doubt.
Has to go.
Yeah, no, I mean,
because he's had 1 winning season. He's had 1 winning season. He should be gone.
I don't see any other way around it, and I've said it all year. And I'm like you, Peter. I liked a lot of the moves. I thought, hey, why not? I do agree with you that it infused some life into what had been a pretty lifeless fan base the last couple of years. I think, in part due to the struggles and COVID and even 2021, I don't think Giants fans truly were able to embrace 2021 as fluky as it was because it was a COVID year for half the year and everybody was kind of getting their life back together. So I don't think people really truly enjoyed it, maybe a little bit at the end. But then you're thinking, what's going to happen the next 2 years? And the next 2 years have just been, complete duds. And now this year projects to be even worse than the last two right now in terms of record, if not very similar to last year. You change the manager, which I still think is a good move. I was adamant about that. I was even open to giving Farhan one more shot with Bob Melvin. Let's see what it looks like. But it has been an all systems fail to this point, to your point. And, yeah, they may get on a little bit of a streak, but they are literally now, as they get Robbie Ray back, and you mentioned this, Peter, they are at their low point of the season. 6 under, 5 back, 5 teams in between. And, again, Farhan said it to Tolbert and Copes a couple of weeks ago. If they don't start winning and give them a reason to not tear the thing down and sell, he's going to have to look at selling, and I don't see how you could say anything other than that as we sit here tonight, Peter.
Yeah, and I don't get the point of selling Snell at this point. I just don't even think you're going to – and we can't see – even if we get good prospects, we'll probably find a way to screw them up. We've had a good half from Elliot Ramos, and we're ready to put him in the Hall of Fame. And I like Elliot Ramos. I think he's a stud.
Sure.
I like him. I'm really happy for him. I'm really happy for Tyler Fitzgerald. We're so sparse of good talent. I think the only guy that looks like he's a pretty sure shot is Patrick Bailey. As far as homegrown hitters, we have nothing. And we get half of a season of a guy. We get an all-star appearance, which is something, and we start, rejoicing. And it's just dude, this team cannot do anything. So they might just trade Snell for nothing. I don't think they should trade him. And it's next year, I'm thinking, okay, maybe we have, a better plan because we will have a full year of Robbie Ray. He'll probably opt in. A full year of Blake Snell, and he'll opt in. So I'm trying to be optimistic. We'll have a full year of Jung-Hoo Lee. I like Jung-Hoo Lee. But they'll probably find another way to screw it up, just to be honest with you. At this point, I couldn't see them not making the playoffs this year, and they look like they're not going to make the playoffs. They look like they're going to win 75 games.
Thanks, Peter. I appreciate it, man. I totally understand the frustration, and the key question is going to be, because there are some things on paper, and I think it's too early to start looking at, hey, they're going to have this and they're going to have that next year, and it's going to be great. But it's going to be who's putting together the rest of the roster. Because I think if it is somebody other than Farhan Zaidi, then that person will inherit some pieces. But that person also is going to have to look to try and not make some of the same mistakes that this regime has made if it ultimately comes to that. And right now it certainly looks like it is heading down that path. But again, the one thing we know, and this is not to sound optimistic, it really isn't, because I've been pretty clear, I don't think this is a good baseball team. And I think, all of the faux, they're in the race and they're only 2 out and they got a lot to play for. To me, that's been a lot of bunk. That's been a lot of wishful thinking that this is somehow magically going to turn. I've said to a bunch, do you watch these guys play? They're showing they're mediocre. They're showing that if one thing starts to go well, 2 other things will start to go bad. And that's even with Snell and Ray and everybody coming back. And so, again, the one thing I will say, though, even in pointing out that obvious truth is, every time you think this team is just going to completely careen and get to 8, 10, 12 under, they start to go back the other way a little bit. It doesn't mean any of the positive will be real, but it's not completely out of the realm of possibility that they win 4 of the next 5 or 5 of the next 6 or something like that, or 6 of the next 8 or something like that. But what you have to understand is at that point, given what we've seen up until this point, that can be a nice little week, but it won't mean that things are actually turning around, because we've got 4 months now of evidence as to what this team is. Derek and San Mateo next here on the Sports Leader.
Hey, JD, how you?
What's going on, Derek?
sell, 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 sell. I think that before this year started, Farhan made all the acquisitions of free agents. I said, let's blow this thing up. Let's start fresh. Let's start with any prospects, any kids that we have, because I'm a big believer that sports is cyclical. You're going to have ups and downs. Once you have your ups, we had our 2010 to 2016
Derek, you know what, Derek? I'm going to put you. Let me put you on hold, Derek. Let's put Derek on hold. He's having a little difficulty with the connection there, Derek. So we're going to go ahead and take a break. We'll get a better connection with Derek. We'll get to Bill in Citrus Heights. I got a couple of lines open. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Derek, I don't want to shortchange you, but we were having a little rough go of the connection there. Giants lose tonight 5-2. They are back to their low water mark of the season at 6 under 500. It's the third time they've been 6 under 500, and they are now 5 back with 5 teams in between. And again, they are much closer to the worst version of themselves than they are to the better version of themselves with under a week to go until the trade deadline. So 808 KNBR. It is John Dickinson here tonight at Sports Phone KNBR on the Sports Leader.
Sports Phone KNBR keeps rolling live from the KNBR Casino Matrix Progressive Jackpot Studios. Casino Matrix Progressive Jackpots are here. Where are you? Just drop in. Please play responsibly. 1-800-GAMBLER.
He swings and he hits a high drive deep to left field. And has he done it again? Yes, he has. Way back into the Dodger bullpen. Now that is an amazing feat. That's the 5th game in a row in which Tyler Fitzgerald has hit a home run.
There's a bright spot. Tyler Fitzgerald going yard for the 5th consecutive game, every game since the All-Star break. First Giants player to hit a home run in 5 straight games since Barry Lamar Bonds, who did it in 7 straight games in 2004. And, oh, by the way, Barry had 8 homers in the 7 consecutive games when he hit a home run. So he actually hit 2 in one of those games. Fitzgerald, the first rookie ever to homer in 5 straight games since 1900. The lone bright spot, drove in both runs for the Giants in this one and been doing his thing and playing shortstop. And how about putting him in the leadoff spot, Jacob Violante, tomorrow? How about Tyler Fitzgerald leading off against Tyler Glasnow? And let's maybe drop Soler down a little bit. What do you say?
No, Fitzgerald's a power hitter, baby. Come on, we need him cleaning up the runners that aren't on base, that don't get there.
Bat him cleanup. Okay, there you go. Bat him cleanup. I mean, where was he tonight? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I guess he was 7 tonight. So yeah, he's definitely moving up in the order. I'm channeling my inner Bruce Bochy when I look at Soler, and Soler did walk a couple of times, but also struck out a couple of times. My inner Bruce Bochy on Soler, he needs a day. He needs a little break. He needs a mental day to clear himself. So we'll see what happens. I do think we're at a point where Bob Melvin is going to have to shake it up a little bit, although sometimes if you know that changes are coming within the next week, and I think there are going to be some significant changes coming if this continues over the next week, a manager will give his team that he currently has maybe one last shot to try and ride it out. But things are not getting any easier with Tyler Glasnow lined up to face the Giants tomorrow. Robbie Ray's going to make his Giants debut. Then Logan Webb, so you get a couple of pretty good pitchers, although, again, who knows where Ray is as he's going to be making his first start in some time, and Webb has struggled of late. And then you got those games against the Rockies, which are still part of this story. And look, it's a different story when the Giants play the Rockies typically in San Francisco. But and you know the yo-yo effect of this season. Every time it looks like they're about to just completely fall out of it, they go on a little mini hot streak. So you can't completely rule that out, but I don't think that should matter in the evaluation of this team over the course of the next week and what they project to be over the final 2 months. They go 6-2 in the next 8. Woohoo! Woohoo! 54-56 on August 2nd. Like that, but only 3 out. Only 3 out going to Cincinnati. On August 2nd, they're like does that really feel like it's anything, even if it happens? Like, is that really going to be some kind of a turning point? Like, I think the evidence is here over the course of these last 4 months, even though this team, in fairness, hasn't been completely whole. All right, back to the phones. 808 KNBR. Let's give Derek another shot here in San Mateo, leading off here in this segment in the 11 o'clock hour. Hey, Derek.
Hey, JD. Sorry, my connection was bad. So I was saying sell. Absolutely sell. Let's build up the farm again because we are not going to compete with the Dodgers until maybe 2029. And I knew that when they signed Shohei and Yamamoto this year, and I said, there's just no way. There's just no way. Let's just start fresh. And even before the Farhan had all the signings in the offseason, I said, let's just take our lumps, right? Because I believe sports is cyclical. Every team has good years. Every team has bad years. We had our window. We had a huge, great window. We had 10, 12, 14. We had 16 even. But now it's time to just sit it out. I mean, look at the Orioles, who have been terrible forever. Now they're doing great because they waited out the prospects, right?
Yeah, no, they did. I mean, they had their. No, again, I think the thing that the Giants never want to do is go into that full rebuild. And I mentioned it last night, Derek. I've been watching the Giants since I was a kid. And I go back to 1989 as a kid, and I can remember 1 year since 1989 where the Giants actually semi-stated that they were taking a look at the young guys, and it was the year after they dumped Barry Bonds and said he wouldn't come back in 2007 when he broke the home run record, and they played a bunch of young guys in 2008. And then they still signed Aaron Rowan, by the way, in that offseason. But that was the 1 year where they took like a mini pause. And then by the end of that year, they had Brian Wilson, they had Sergio Romo, Lincecum obviously was doing his thing at a big level, Pablo Sandoval came up there. So they had some pieces that proved themselves to be obviously pretty damn good players and key players on championship caliber teams. But they just I think the tough pill for them to swallow now, Derek, is the fact that they've had one winning season since 2016. 17, 18 was a flop. Bochy's last year was a flop. You got the COVID year you wipe out. You've got the one magical, fluky 2021 year, and then 22, 23, and 24, all disappointing. I mean, you're talking about almost a full decade of no rebuild and also no success. So to bite the bullet organizationally after one winning season out of really 8 or 9 and say now we're going to go into a 3, 4, 5-year rebuild, I just don't think they feel they can sell that to this fan base at this point.
Yeah, I get it. We're a big market team. Everyone has high expectations. The legacy's there. We got all the big names. I don't know. Maybe I'm more of a realist where I'm like, look, some organizations don't even get what we've had,
Totally.
So I think, look at the Cubs just struggling for, 100 years or something like that, and now they're still just okay again. I think, I don't know. I'm just more like, hey, we had our window. My father, raised me a Giants fan. Didn't see them win a World Series in his entire life until 2010, okay? So I think it's just, we have to have some perspective and say, look, we just need to blow it up sometime. And I get it. Maybe Farhan, maybe ownership doesn't want it to do that because they have to put out a product. I get it. And you can do that, but I think the expectations just have to be there where you're like, hey, we got to play the kids, throw in an Aaron Rowan every once in a while, whatever, throw in an Armando Benitez every once in a while and, sell a couple tickets. But we got to start again, just like the Dodgers did, right? The Dodgers came up with all their prospects, and look where they're sitting now. It just takes time, and I think San Francisco fans have to be a little bit more patient with the kids, and we'll get there eventually. We've already been sitting with sub 500 teams, whatever. My last point, just real quick, and I'll let you go, is let's give Gabe Kapler a little bit more respect because everyone thought that Bo Mel and this team we're going to be great. We're doing worse than Kapler did. So. If Kapler had this team, I don't agree with all his moves and his antics, but, if he had this team, he might have done better. That's all. Thanks, Jamie.
Yeah, I'm going to push back on that one. I don't think this team would have been better under a Gabe Kapler in a lame duck year because that's what it would have been for him. It would have been a year where things didn't go well the last couple of years, and he had already worn on the clubhouse. And if this team struggles to the level that I actually think it'd be worse if you had brought him back. So again, not that Melvin's been the savior, but I think that's a move that needed to happen. And the Giants did, I think, upgrade at the manager position in the offseason. But the talent and the cohesiveness in terms of the roster just hasn't been there. And again, my other pushback on going into a rebuild now is you don't want it to be 12 or 13 out of 14 years by the time you get to like 2028 or 2029. I mean, at that point, you're talking about 11 to 12 years potentially where you've had one good year in terms of the win-loss. And I'll say the other part of this is, doing what the Giants did, as much as it doesn't look right now like it's working out, final verdict all but assured, but not formally. You spend all the money that the Giants did, and it still doesn't work. But it did get the fan base excited. And you can say, that's fringe, and that's like Giants fans were far more excited coming into this season, I think, than they had been either of the last two seasons, because there were some brand name players, even if they were guys that were maybe on the downside and guys that surely have not had good years. But I think it did excite the fan base to where there was optimism. And I'll also say this. You look at the game logs and you look at the attendance numbers, and, yeah, it's not sold out every night like it used to be at Oracle Park. But the one thing I will say, I don't think they've had a crowd under 30,000 since April for any game. And, that's what, top 8, top 10, I think, in terms of attendance, top third, I believe. I haven't looked up the rank in close to a month, so I could be off on that. Don't quote me on that. But if you're averaging, 30,000 for a team that's as mediocre as this team has been, there's something to be said for, putting a little out there to keep your fan base engaged. And I think, the fear would be that you really tear it down and go young. And again, I can count 1 year the Giants have done that in the last 35. But you do it now on top of the way that things have gone here the last 7-8 years. And I just think it has the potential to be catastrophic. And I will also say, part of the reason Farhan Zaidi was hired in the first place was the Giants' desire to never go into a full rebuild. He was brought in because the belief was that his skill set would be to revamp the middle and the back half of the roster enough to where, like a lot of the Billy Beane teams for decades, never totally sucked. They had years where they rebuilt. They had years where they were mediocre, but they never truly had a bottoming out year until the last couple of years. And I think the belief was, given the Giants' payroll and being in San Francisco and the willingness to spend from ownership, would be that they could put together a pretty good team without having to be a top-flight payroll team, but they'd do it on the margins. They'd be competitive enough. They'd be able to get 85 wins a year. I think the whole point of bringing Farhan in was to win 85 games a year and be in this third wild card race over and over and over. And even if it's not the best team in the world, they're in the race and there's some excitement and people are still going to the ballpark. But it hasn't worked out. He hasn't. And then while you're doing that, in a perfect world, you're revamping the farm system and you're getting it retooled to where you have some big time players that can come up and be a core. And then you sign those players. You don't go full A's route when those guys come due to be paid. You pay them if you develop some Matt Olsons and some Matt Chapmans and guys like the ones that they've had, Murphy. You keep those guys when you get them. But I think the ability to build it on the margins was the key. One more before we break here. Bill in Citrus Heights next on the Sports Leader. Hey, Bill.
Hey, how are you? And how far do you want attendance to fall in San Francisco before you finally wake up and say, we have a problem here? Because once they go away, once the crowds go away, it takes a while to bring them back. So that's something to think about too. But I have a question for you.
Sure.
And maybe you can answer it. I wonder why they keep on rolling Yaz out there in right field. He's done nothing for this team. He has had a horrible year this year. He had a horrible year the year before and the year before that. I mean, he's not hitting. He hasn't. He's 0 for Los Angeles. So what's the deal? Why do they've got some talent on the bench in Matos. He's young. I understand that. But he's talented. And sitting him on the bench isn't doing any good. Why? What is the fascination with Roland Yaz out there game after game after game, only to watch him strike out or not hit.
He's been a positive WAR player, and that's the analytical side to it. His defense has been good, and he tends to, even though he doesn't always get on base or come up with hits, he does tend to have pretty good at bats. And they're not fully committed yet to going young. And to be honest, Matos has not performed really since the couple of weeks after he won the Player of the Week, going back to May. I mean, he went into a woeful cold streak, got sent down, came back, has not really been. I agree with you lately. He hasn't really been utilized, but I think that's one of the things if this team sells in the next week. I think it is going to be to free up opportunities for a player like Luis Matos to just get more extended run over these last 2 months. And then you have the answer by the end of this year. Is the guy a keeper? Is he not? Because he was on the fringe of not being a keeper even at the beginning of this season. Hell, him and Ramos both were on the fringe of not being keepers. Ramos was one of the first guys that got sent to minor league camp in spring training. So, I think we're heading that direction, I guess, is probably the best answer I can give you, Bill.
I think tonight was a sign that you had Yaz set to come up with 2 men on base, nobody out, top of the ninth, a chance for the Giants to get some runs. And what did Bob Melvin do?
Yeah, he hit Flores for him.
Yeah,
no doubt, and that's the move. I mean, he's going to face the righties and not face the lefties a lot of the time in that situation. And Vesia was still in the game, and you're basically taking your shot that Vesia is going to pump one in there after he hadn't been able to throw strikes, and Flores is going to run into it and hit it in the left field bleachers and tie the game at that point. So you're taking your shot. And it didn't work out, but that's a little bit of that matchup ball that the Giants have played. When they've played well, they've played that matchup ball pretty successfully. Thank you for the call, Bill. I appreciate it. 808 KNBR, we got to pause here. We'll get to Jay. We'll get to Dave coming up next. I got one line open for you, 415-808-5627, as the Giants lose tonight to the Dodgers, 5-2 the final. It is Sports Phone, KNBR, right here on the Sports Leader.
The nighttime is the right time for Sports Phone KNBR. Let's go on the sports leader. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
1-1 pitch. Swing, and there's a liner into left field. That's going to get down, base hit. Coming around third is Chapman. And the throw comes in, cut off by the shortstop, Hernandez. And the Giants have a run, and the hits just keep on coming for Tyler Fitzgerald. And it is 5-2 Dodgers, and the Giants have the possible tying run coming up now.
And the Giants did make it interesting in the ninth as Vesia, the pitcher for the Dodgers, just handing out walks. Chapman and Conforto, Fitzgerald singles in Chapman, and then Wilmer Flores pinch hits for Mike Yastrzemski, pops out to second. Brett Wisely strikeout, and Evan Phillips comes in. Jorge Soler, 4-pitch walk, and you're thinking maybe some late-night Lamont magic. Going to park one in the bleachers in right field at Dodger Stadium to put the Giants ahead, and then it's like, oh, yeah, no, it's not 2021. The Giants used up. I said this at the time, and a lot of Giants fans got mad at me, Jacob, and you may have even been one of them, because I pretty much said it to everybody that would listen back in 2021. The Giants used up about a decade's worth of, oh, my God, that guy just hit a home run, and they came back and won. They used up about a decade's worth of Lamont Wade hits a grand slam in the ninth inning at Dodger Stadium tonight in 2021. So when it doesn't happen, I'm like, well, it happened like 20 times in 2021. So, like, sometimes you use them all up.
We did, and it was a magical run. And I mean, we even dusted off Brandon Crawford and Buster Posey from the grave. You know what I mean? They were out to pasture almost. And those are legends. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, like you said, we used up all the bullets, and the magic hasn't been here for a while. And it sucks.
Well, and you were asking me during the break, and we'll get into this between now and the midnight replay, because I do want to get back to the calls, and appreciate everybody who's joined the conversation tonight. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. Everybody on YouTube and Twitch and the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line. I do want to get to one text, and then you ask me the question, what do you do with Blake Snell coming up at the deadline? He's got one more start on the books between now and next Tuesday. It's going to be Saturday, in all likelihood, in the doubleheader against the Rockies. And Snell's been really good 3 straight. He's got the opt-in for next year, but he also could pitch like a Cy Young candidate like he did last year in the second half. He basically started in June in 2023. He waited till July in 2024. But if he's just spectacular down the stretch, it's almost the worst case scenario for the Giants, in the sense that he wasn't healthy and couldn't get on track until July. So he really played a role in, this team not to this point being what people had hoped they could be on the negative end of it. And then he starts getting it together potentially and pitches really well in the second half and the final couple of months of the season for the Giants, maybe well enough that he opts out, all the while helping you win essentially meaningless games in terms of, you're not going to make the playoffs anyway, even if he does pitch like an ace. And then he walks. And so you would have, in essence, gotten none of the benefit of having Blake Snell for the 1 year. And again, I'm going down the rabbit hole, I think, there in a big-time way. But when you think of it that way, you almost go, ooh. And I think I hit you with this, Jacob, and you said, ooh. I think you said to me, I think you got to trade him. But that was a thought that just as we were talking through it, it came into my mind like, oh my God, like maybe they do if they are, because it comes down to if they're going to sell. Who are we really talking about? If you're going to, you're not talking about Conforto and Yaz and Estrada. I mean, you could be, but no, you're talking about Chapman and Snell and Duvall, and I mean you're talking about some of the guys that might have a little bit more value compared to some of those other guys.
Definitely, those are the guys that you're going to get some sort of prospect back. I think the Conforto and Yaz those are almost DFA guys. And I'm not saying they're that low value or anything, but it's almost to the point where if you do want to sell stuff, you kind of have to sell the goods,
Yeah, no, I think you're on it as well. But 18 runs in the last 7 games. I mean, you could make the case, Ray, I think you could throw into that. We'll see what he does tomorrow. Cobb, I mean, he's got to prove that he's healthy, I think. But Duvall and Chapman, I think all of those have the potential that you would need to look at. And look, they would be lottery tickets. I think that they certainly wouldn't be surefire prospects from anybody that you'd be getting back like you would if maybe Blake Snell had a couple of months of pitching at an extremely high level. However, if he'd had a couple of months at pitching at an extremely high level, the Giants might be a 500 team and 2 back right now, and they'd feel like they're wanting to go be buyers. Let's get back to the phones at 808 KNBR. Jay in Rancho Cucamonga next here on the Sports Leader. Hey, Jay.
Hey, JD. How are you?
I'm doing all right tonight, man. Just riding that roller coaster, man. It seems like week to week, it's like, oh, the Giants look like they might make a run. Oh, the Giants look like they might completely fall off the map. And we're in a downturn this week, Jay.
Yeah, I feel like, I'm at Magic Mountain. I mean, I'm a transplant from the Bay Area, and, everybody in my condo complex and all my friends, I'm like the lonely Giants and Warriors fan down here. Right now, but it seems like, when I'm like tonight, I went into the gym and I'm wearing my Giants shirt, and people don't even say anything. They're good friends, but they're like, I think they just feel sorry for me right now. And I'm just shaking my head and everything. And the thing is that I always have hope, and I know we got some good things, but like you just said, it's like we take one step forward, and then I feel like we take 3 or 4 steps back. And I was saying, okay, maybe we'll just stay put, no matter what happens, and just ride it out and see what we can do. But then you just brought up this crazy scenario with Blake Snell, and I'm just like, oh my God, that's right. So I don't know what to do, but I do think they just bite the bullet, keep what they have, and just see what shakes out. Because I really do want to see those guys. Maybe get rid of some of the fringe guys. I love whether it's whatever they can get, but I do want to see what these young guys can do. And Tyler Fitzgerald, for example, he's hitting home run after home run after home run right now. And I have a feeling that's just going to be a small streak. And then it's going to be right back to the same. We need to see a larger sample size to look at Matos and look at, Ramos. And then even with all the talk, I think right before the All-Star break, is like the problems that Doval had. That's the one guy I would not want to get rid of, because to me he's like the one surefire guy that I know that has stuff. You're bringing in Walker, please no Rogers, by the way. Trying to Walker, or we don't know what those guys can do as a closer. I'm just kind of like rambling right now. I'm frustrated. I don't blame Farhan. I don't blame. It's just, it is what it is. And I'm sorry, that one call said 2029. I said, don't you even talk to me about 2029.
Yeah, you can't do that now. You can't do that after the last 8 years have been one winning season. And I know not all of that was Farhan, and look, I don't blame Farhan for taking some of the swings that he took. And I believe that it did generate some excitement. Now, that being said, he has to be held accountable for the end result. And if the end result is 77, 78 wins, then I think we know how the thing ends for him at that point. But, I think we're trending in a direction here, Jay, where it's going to be Wisely at second and Fitzgerald at short and Matos in the outfield. And they're going to try to see what they have, and Ramos obviously continuing to play, and maybe they give another outfielder a look at some point, and we'll see what they do with Wade at the deadline and all of that. And so I think that's the path in which it's heading. I don't see, as I look at AAA and look at the minor leagues, the one thing, I don't see too many players that are ready to come up right now. So it may be, taking a flyer on somebody you get in a trade that might be a prospect that hasn't worked out for another team, and you plug that player in at a position between now and the end of the season and see how it works. But other than that, I think it's going to be maybe more time for some of the guys who haven't been full-time players, at least at this point, if this thing doesn't get turned around. Jay, thank you so much tonight. Really appreciate you as always.
All right, thank you.
All right, from Jay, we go to Dave in Concord next here on the Sports Leader. Hey, Dave.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing all right.
I wanted to say one thing. I saw Melvin. I mean, being a catcher, he must have known Hicks was done in the third in, beginning of the fourth inning. I mean, I saw, Hicks, he was started off the inning like 94, he was balling, man. But then, towards the end, he was down at 84 and, throwing sweepers, and having him face Ohtani when the game was 2-1, and he should have gone in after him, because Ohtani, first of all, being a pitcher, he knows he missed a sweeper the first time up. He's not going to miss it again when Hicks had to rely on it, because he didn't have any more gas in him. And that's the other thing. I said, even Bailey, being a catcher, he should have, said, hey, the guy, he has to go out there on a limb and save his pitcher. And, I just don't think, Melvin, for being a pitcher and being a catcher and being a manager, at least with Kapler, he knew when his pitchers was on the ropes, he'd go out and get somebody in there. And so I don't like trying to say, oh, analytics this, and you can't defend Melvin on both sides of the fence there and say, oh, he had a pitcher, he went with analytics for hitting in the 8th or 9th inning. He's got to take responsibility, because if his team sees that their pitcher is on the ropes and their manager doesn't go out and get him, they know that he doesn't have their back either when push comes to shove at the end of the season.
I'm with you on in the bottom of the 4th. I thought Hicks was close to empty at the beginning of the inning, and then he was really all over the place as the inning went on. It did not look comfortable. At one point, the Melvin's out there and the trainer's out there, and you're thinking, what's going on? And he said he was okay. He battled through to get Kike Hernandez for what was his 7th strikeout. But I'm with you. With Ohtani, again, in that situation, I do think you need to go to the lefty. And that was, that was a move that I do think Melvin was trying to stick with Hicks to get him through that inning. And he probably shouldn't have, honestly. And I don't think that was I think the analytics in that instance would have said take the guy out and not let him face Ohtani again in that situation. So I'm with you. I think, the iPad, if you will, would have told Gabe Kapler we're taking him out, and Gabe Kapler probably would have taken him out. And then the 9th inning, Melvin did go to the analytic, did go to the matchup basically. Which I think the one in the 9th was a no-brainer to play with Flores. But no, I'm with you on not going to a lefty against Ohtani. I think that's a fair criticism and a fair question. Thanks, Dave.
Well, one more.
Sure. Yeah. Go for it.
Like even Bailey. Being a catcher. We're talking about feel of the game, okay? Being a catcher and seeing all these Dodgers grinding out your pitchers, and then he comes up and first pitch, what does he do in the 9th or whatever, when he came up with 2 guys on, first pitch swinging. I'm just saying, this is a mentality where, at least I know when the Giants had had opportunities in the past years. At least guys knew. Even if they were up for 2 innings, they knew to put it all out there. And I think sometimes, with Gabe and even with Bailey, you got to think like as if, hey, this is like we're in the the 9th. We're in a World Series type of matchup. We got to let it all hang out, and we can't just be going out there and not letting your emotions be on your sleeves and try to have that fight in you. If you don't have that fight in you, then you're just going through the motions, and unfortunately that's what I see the Giants going through. And part of it, Melvin has to take that responsibility, to put that fight in them, to know that they've got he's got their back. So I don't want to ramble on like the other caller, but
all right. Thanks, Dave. No, you're all good, man. Thank you. Appreciate it. 808 KNBR. Let's go ahead and pause here. We'll come back. We'll wrap things up. A couple of more calls to get to, as it is Sports Phone here on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
KNBR keeps rolling. Live from the KNBR Casino Matrix Progressive Jackpot Studios. Casino Matrix. Progressive Jackpots are here. Where are you? Just drop in. Please play responsibly. 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, final segment. John Dickinson, Sports Phone KNBR. Join me tomorrow after Giants baseball again. I was out at 49er training camp today. No practice, just press conferences with Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, George Kittle and Nick Bosa as well. And the first training camp practice of 2024 is tomorrow. We'll be down in Santa Clara for that. And then on after the Giants game. Going to talk some Niners tomorrow. Intended on doing it tonight, but the calls have been tremendous here over the last 90 minutes. And so we've kept it Giants. A lot of Giants fans frustrated as they drop tonight's contest to the Dodgers 5-2. Final caller of the night will be Arthur in Los Angeles here on the Sports Leader. Arthur, how are you tonight? We got about 2 minutes before we got to wrap this thing up and head toward Wednesday.
Oh, yes, John. Yes. Yeah, with Estrada and Yastrzemski and yeah, it's no reason why Matos was slumping because he's been benched. And yeah, about the when the Niners come, just one quick question. I think it's September 22 when the Niners come down here to SoFi.
Yeah, it's early. It's September. I think you got it right. It is September 22nd. That is good knowledge, man.
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know. I'm not smart. I'm looking at the internet, so I
Week
see
three.
it. So.
Week three.
I might be down there too with my red and gold. So
okay,
have a good night,
Arthur.
John.
You gotta let me know as we get closer, man. You gotta call in and I gotta meet up with you at SoFi if you're down there. We gotta meet up and I want to say hi and take a picture and all that with you. So let's make sure we connect here in the next couple months before that one, because I'm going to be down there for that one as well.
Sure, John. I haven't been doing too well just like the Giants baseball team. I've been horrible the last week or two. So I'll see if I can make it. If not, I'll be up there visiting Frisco probably in the winter. When it's raining.
Beautiful. Well, Arthur, thank you, my man. Appreciate it tonight. We're up against it. Don't make it your last call. We'll talk again soon.
I won't.
All right.
Good night.
Thank you, Arthur. Arthur's one of my guys. Love Arthur. And yeah, we'll meet up at SoFi. You know I'm good for it, Jacob. You know I'm good for it, brother.
You mean what you say, and you say what you mean.
All the time. And it's been a pleasure to have the great Jacob Violante working tonight. We got Overnight Dave in the house tonight as well.
No, Dave is under the weather.
Oh.
Yes. So we have Jordan pulling the overnight.
All right. Well, thanks to Jordan. And who else tonight? Who was working the cuts tonight? It was Jordan at one point.
That was
right?
Jordan.
And,
yep.
Oh, Jordan. Okay. So for Jordan and for Jacob and for all the great callers, and get well, Overnight Dave. We'll talk to you tomorrow night as the Giants lose to the Dodgers 5-2. Sports Phone KNBR right here, 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader.